Welcome to the Clemson Dubcast, first day of September, first day of the ACC, the post-expansion ACC with Stanford, Cal, SMU on the way. Now the next question probably turns to who might be on the way out. We at TigerIllustrated.com were on top of that roller coaster ride, the expansion roller coaster ride, over the last month, I guess it is. And we will continue to be on top of all developments moving forward. My good friends Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold have been part of the podcast since the beginning, way back in August of 2018. They have an accomplished team of personal injury attorneys at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold based in Greenville. They are Clemson people, and their skillful attorneys have decades of experience in complicated litigation matters, taking a special interest in medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, and neglect, car accident cases that have left the individuals involved in serious trouble. For a free consultation at Parham, Smith, and Archenhold, call 864-990-4581 or online at parhamlaw.com. That's PARHAM law.com. Solero Communications, formerly known as Tandem Payment, is a full-service integrated electronic payments provider powered by leading-edge technology. Solero provides a wide array of merchant solutions, simplified payments. They make onboarding, taking payments, maintaining risk management and compliance, and getting support quick and easy. At Solero, they're all about helping you achieve sustainable growth as a business. Taking payments isn't the only thing your business needs. With Solero's solutions, you can manage inventory, sell products and services via social media, schedule staff, track sales, get reports, and much, much more. Find out more about Solero at solerocommerce.com. That's CELERO commerce.com. Want to share a quick word about Founders Federal Credit Union? If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTAY members. Its office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. Okay, been waiting a couple of weeks. Excited for this one. Lucas Glover making an appearance on the podcast. Great stuff. Here we go. Enjoy. All right, joined by Lucas Glover, the frequently requested podcast guest. Man, it is an honor that you're appearing here. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I appreciate it also. Thanks for having me.
Yes, full disclosure here. My plan this morning was to wake up as usual about 5:30, 6, get a little work done, and then spend a couple of hours doing some homework on Lucas Glover because I like to be, reasonably prepared. Then at about 7:15, everything turned upside down because I got a text saying the ACC was voting to expand. So it's already been a long day as I record this here at 10:01 a.m. So if there's I'm going to play dumb on some things probably, I guess is what I'm saying. So I apologize.
No problem. I'm good at that too. So it shouldn't be a problem.
Part of my research though, I was able to do and go back and watch your interview with Pat McAfee. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Like, first of all, I'm not wearing a wife beater as I record this.
I'm still trying to figure out how they're going to rein him in on ESPN when they get that show going. I guess he's only on for 1 hour with them and then 2 hours syndicated or something like that. So he's going to have to go back and forth from regular Pat to censored Pat, which could be good entertainment in itself.
The way he closed with you, I'm like, oh boy, because he goes, all right, where'd you grow up, Lucas? Greenville. Oh, you're a South Carolina fan. You're a big Cox fan, and you're like, no Cox, no Cox, no Cox.
Yeah, that was comedy gold, and I don't think it was purposeful like he can do sometimes. But yeah, I grew up bleeding orange, so anything garnet and black's a little bit offensive. But it's half the half the state or however it works out. But family ties to Clemson from way back, and grew up going to all the games and pulling hard, and probably way too invested still. Outcomes of games in various sports can determine my mood, which isn't okay for an almost 44-year-old, but that's the way it is.
I will say that McAfee, he has a way with words that just makes me crack up. He was describing your sweaty pants, which are, I guess, quite the object now, and he was calling them treasonous.
Yes.
I just couldn't stop laughing at that description.
Yes. He's an intelligent guy, and definitely has a way with words, and he's turned that into a very lucrative thing for him and his crew there. But yeah, the pants took a personality of their own. I think it's the only thing that I've worn in the last 7 weeks that I saved. I'm going to wash them and auction them off somewhere as the swamp ass pants, I guess, would be the right words there. I guess the S is in the dirty word. I can put, tiger paws there, and some Clemson fan might want them, but I'll wash them first, I promise.
I guess I'd be curious. I mean, obviously the nation notices, but at what point did you start to think, oh boy, I mean, at what point did you notice? Your caddy tell you, or like, how does that work in the moment?
Yeah, it's not really especially, going into Memphis and even Atlanta this time of year that it's going to be a challenge no matter what. And there, at some point, it's just, you just give up. There's just nothing you can do, and just own it. And I mean, it's everybody was in the same boat. It was just a matter of who got shown the most and focused on the most. And I guess when you're in contention, you're on there a bunch. But like I told Matt. Pat, I just leaning into it, embracing it, and just laughing along with it, because that's all you can do.
I saw you shared on Pat's show that you would be wholly in favor of going to shorts for a certain period of the year. You expand on that?
Absolutely. They lifted the all pants rule for practice 2 or 3 years ago, and I mean, I think a good barometer would be what they do for the caddies with the caddy bibs. If the heat index is over something, I don't even know the number, I'll say 100 just for conversation. If the heat index is over 100, the caddy bibs are optional for our guys. So I think that could be a good barometer there for shorts as well. But I mean, it's not like we're going to come out there in jams and chef pants or something weird. But I mean, it's to the point now where golf's not as buttoned up as it used to be, and it's just, I think it's just something we could definitely talk about a little more. I understand the professional look and the professional nature of it, but I mean, if they're letting us do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, no matter what the temperature, if it's a scorcher, I don't see the problem. But I also understand the professional look about it. But like I said, we're probably a little past that here in 2023. And then there's the other elephant in the room that lives doing it. So that might be another reason they don't. But who knows?
With some time to have sort of decompressed and recharged, how do you look back at those 3 weeks?
Yeah, there's still a little disappointment about the Ryder Cup going on, so I haven't had full time to reflect. It was obviously a whirlwind, and but we had some people over Wednesday night to have a little celebration dinner, some friends, and that was awesome. But still I haven't had full time to reflect. Just the whirlwind of travel and then coming back home and getting right back into schedule with kids and trying to remember what days softball practice and hockey practice and all the stuff that really matters when all that goes on. And but I think as things slow down, getting back into the family life, I'll be able to really appreciate that 6-8 week run I went on. And, for that period of time, the best golf I've played, day in and day out in my whole career. Just, the trials, the difficulties and all that, that I'd been going through and had and could have again. But at the same time, I overcame it for a long period of time, which I hadn't done in quite a few years. So I got 4 or 5 weeks off before I play again, and I'm just gonna make sure to appreciate and be grateful for that run, to know that at 43, almost 44, and playing with the guys I play with, that I'm still capable. And I think more than anything, it's just a confidence boost to play a couple times this fall. And then, I got a 3-year exemption and can make my schedule. And like I said, after the Wyndham there in Greensboro, I get to be home more. And that's pretty big motivator for me. I had kids at a little bit later age, and I got 10 and 8 right now, and they're in the throes of youth sports, and that stretch I went on for 8 weeks will enable me to be home a lot more for a longer period of time, and I'm most excited about that, because as poorly as I played leading up to that stretch, I was gone an awful lot, and I look forward to that, and probably when it's all said and done, that'll probably be the thing I'm most grateful for. Yeah,
I probably led with the wrong thing there in asking you about the 3 weeks, or I guess 6 to 8 weeks, and not the most recent thing of learning you're not on the Ryder Cup. When did you find out? How did you find out? And we'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, Zach called me Monday morning. It was about 9 a.m. local here on the East Coast, and I knew immediately just by his tone, and I'd also known from talking to some other captains that are friends and have made friends over the years that's the hardest thing for a captain, because for the most part they're our peers also. And Zach was a friend long before he was the captain of the Ryder Cup, and I didn't want to make it any harder on him than it already was and was going to be. So I just said, "Hey man, I understand and I get it, and I wish you guys the best." And the disappointment is real, but I also understand that there's a lot that goes into those picks and the pairings that they foresee and all that stuff. Do I feel like I would have been a good addition to the team? Absolutely. But also understand that guys played well for upwards of 2 years, and I played well for 2 months. So I have to take that into consideration as well when I'm thinking about my feelings, and kind of taking the high road. And honestly, this is the first time I've talked about it in public, and and the politically correct part of me realizes that I've got to play against these guys for the foreseeable future, and all those guys in that captain's room and war room, if you will, are good friends of mine, and for a long time. So I'm not gonna disparage them in any way or any decisions they made, because I know it was hard and they have a plan. But that doesn't take away the disappointment. But there's, I've said it for years and years and years. Playing better takes care of everything. I didn't do that for 22 of the 24-month cycle, but at the same time, I understand that I was pretty hot, and on the course. I got myself into the conversation, and I hadn't been in the conversation for a Ryder Cup in 10 years, maybe 12 actually. So disappointed, upset, but also understanding now, 4 days separating the call from when we're talking here today. Like I said, they're my friends first, and then they're my peers second. And I'll be pulling hard for them because they are my friends, and some of them very close friends. I think a good showing in Chicago or Atlanta might have strengthened my case to where they couldn't leave me off, but I didn't do that. And I actually stole a quote from the season forecast there on Tiger Illustrated from Ben Franklin. Well done is better than well said. I used that last week when a reporter asked me about it, and that's never been a self-promoter, never been a guy that's going to tell you how good I am. I'd rather just show you, and I showed it for 6-8 weeks instead of 2 years. So I get it, I understand. Doesn't change the disappointment, doesn't change my hunger to want to be on a Ryder Cup. I mean, on paper, it's about the only thing I haven't accomplished in my career. A couple President's Cups, but similar to Keegan, I've been left off a couple times when I was 11th on the list, and I got 2 years, and ironically, the next one's at Bethpage, where I have some history. So motivation's pretty high right now to get back in the mix in 2025 and at Bethpage.
So in the interest of the relationships that you referred to, is it good that we're doing this interview today and not earlier in the week?
Yeah, maybe so. But no, I had a few people call Monday evening and Tuesday when everything went down, and I just declined. Emotions were pretty high. Just the disappointment, and I'm not even really going to say angry, because there's 25 guys that you could have legitimately put on that team, and nobody could have a real argument. There'd be pros and cons for everybody. But yeah, I just Tuesday afternoon, it was pretty tense around the house here. So yeah, Friday interview probably a little better.
Yeah, a friend of mine who has followed you closely over the years said he remembered that when you had some early success, your first couple of years on tour, that you had said your number one goal was to make the Ryder Cup. Is that accurate? Is his recollection accurate? Is that what you?
Yeah, 100%. I think as an athlete, the opportunity to represent your country is the highest honor you can have. Whether it be, golf's just now back in the Olympics, so that was never in the front of my mind. And then when it came back, I realized I was probably a little too old for that to be a goal with how stacked the U.S. team is with these young players. But Ryder Cup and then the President's Cup every other year, and I just think that's the highest honor as an athlete you can have, is to wear your colors and wear your country on your hat and on your shirt. And as an individual game, as golf is, to come together for a common goal, such as playing for a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup or an Olympic medal, outside of golf in that regard is the highest honor. I really do believe that, and it's fun too, because you get to get into some conversations and into some the right term. You get to learn a lot more about the guys you compete against every week, and I always found myself better off as a player after those President's Cups, because I got to watch Tiger Woods up close. I got to watch Steve Stricker up close. I got to watch Phil Mickelson up close. I got to watch guys up close that are better than me, and saw how they handled things, saw how they broke down certain things and what made them tick a little bit more than you would just playing with them at a regular event. So obviously tons of fun, but also an opportunity to learn and improve. But yeah, your friend's dead on. That's always been a goal of mine and still is. And I think given the age thing and similar to what Keegan said the other day, probably going to have to play my way on because getting picked is harder and harder with how many great players there are.
I'm not sure there's a better description of the just vicious nature of playing golf than your description of what turned for you. And it was basically an entirely, not an adjustment to your putting stroke. It was basically you had to trash everything you had learned before and learn a new motor skill because, as you said, so your brain had no scar tissue. You had to rewire your brain. And as I'm listening to that, I'm like, I'm really glad I stopped playing golf several years ago because that is it, man. Like, can we dig into that? But does digging into it and talking about it, are you kind of reluctant to do that because of what we're talking about? You don't want to jinx it or whatever. Is it a tricky thing that way?
No, I think, it's kind of like, the weekend warrior golfers, they don't like to say the S word in golf, which is shank. Well, a lot of people don't like that short Y word either, which is yips.
Yeah.
But it's real. I mean, I have it. I had it. I have it. I know guys that have chipping yips that play the tour. I know guys that have had the driver yips and fought that and beat it and came back to the tour. And I know guys that didn't beat it and it knocked them off the tour. Different, and everybody's fighting something. But for me, working with Jason Kuhn, who I've referenced a lot the last few months, Navy SEAL, and he was like, "Hey, man, who cares if you talk about it? It's a thing. It's not something you can run from." And but yeah, it was literally over a short putt. I would at times have zero feeling in my hands. And Jason, the way he described it, instead of it being a mental issue, it's actually a central nervous system issue. Your body is trying to protect you from something, and you have involuntary muscle spasms. And I never had it explained to me that way. And he was a baseball player, and, you can do some internet sleuthing, but he still has the record for most wild pitches in a game when he was pitching in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he was a stud closer and was prepared to get drafted. And that knocked him out of baseball, the pitching yips. And he kind of made his name working with some pitchers. And my manager got to know him and said, "I think this guy can help you with what you're fighting." And he dabbled with some other golfers before, but nothing as drastic as I had. And he just took me through his experiences and how he eventually developed a way to attack it instead of running from it. And his background with baseball and then going into the SEALs was very refreshing and eye-opening to me, because he basically told me and proved to me that I was not mentally weak, that I was actually the complete opposite, to be doing what I was doing for 9 or 10 years at still a pretty high level, fighting what I was fighting, that I was probably as mentally tough as anybody to go in there and do it day in and day out and try to deal with it. What I didn't realize until working with him was that I was not going to beat it by practicing. In fact, it was probably hurting me to practice more, but I was, I'm an athlete, I'm stubborn, and I think I can out practice anything. And if there's anybody that's made more 3-footers on the putting green than me in the last 10 years, I need to meet them, because I can assure you nobody has. But it didn't matter once I got in the arena. I couldn't beat it with what I was doing. So I was still using the short putter when Jason and I started, and I was starting to see some progress. And then I'd have a relapse, and then I'd start to see some progress. And then Brad Faxon, who's a great friend, and I'd been working with him on my putting, and he basically urged me to try the long putter just to see what would happen. And talking to Jason about it, talking to Brad about it, talking to some other people about it, and it was more of what I said and what you alluded to, is that I needed just basically a complete new motor skill that had nothing to do with how I'd ever done it in the past. And a lot of people have asked, would Jason's methods have worked if I hadn't changed putters? And my answer to that is yes, but it would have taken longer. But when I got the long putter on top of what Jason and I had already laid as a foundation and then built on that, I even had some yippy stuff go on with the long putter the first few weeks. And then with my work with Jason and then learning my tendencies with the long putter, I was able to overcome it. And that's right at the time I went on that run, starting at Rocket Mortgage in Detroit. And, I'm still going to miss some putts. Nobody's perfect. And, but realizing that I'm just human versus fighting an injury such as, the yips, and very eye-opening, and also why I've been more open to just talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it and if you don't put it out there, how are you going to fight it? How are you going to attack it? And it's been so cool hearing people, not just golfers, but just people that fight stuff and that are now more open to talk about it. And, if I help one person down the road that can see what I went through and then overcame it, if I can help that one person, then I'm helping people too. And that's been very cool to hear and cool to listen to some people that, whether it be a basketball player with free throws or, soccer players go through it with penalty kicks. I mean, in sport, it's so prevalent to have these mental blocks or physical blocks. And, to have somebody guide me down the path to overcome it, and realizing that it's actually not mental, and that to go from where I was to where I am just proves that I'm mentally strong. And if that message can get out to other people, it's okay to talk about it. You got to attack it. You can't run from it. And again, it's not just the yips. It's anything with brain or mental or even just physical blocks of things you can and can't do.
So previous to this new way of addressing it and acknowledging it, did you, like when you were asked about it by, say, a media member or somebody else, would you say, I don't want to talk about it? Or how different was your sort of response to it then in that mode of thinking?
Well, honestly, it was so bad at times that, and I played so poorly for long stretches that I didn't have to answer any questions about it because I wasn't playing well enough.
Right.
And that's me not trying to avoid your question, but if you're not on the leaderboard, nobody's going to talk to you. And so I didn't have to talk about it that much. But 4 years ago, 2019, I made the Tour Championship fighting this because I hit the ball that year probably as well as I'd ever hit it. So I couldn't screw it up because I was so close to the hole a bunch. But last hole of the 2019 Tour Championship, playing with Dustin Johnson, where it did not matter one bit what I made on the last hole at East Lake, I 4-putted. And for no reason other than I couldn't get in the hole. And so I think that's when people started realizing how bad it was. And after Greensboro and after Memphis, I told a couple of stories about the AT&T Pebble Beach one year and at Bay Hill one year, at legitimate panic attacks, like heart racing, short of breath, couldn't feel my hands, and I'm trying to hit a round object with a flat face of a putter from 1.5 feet, and and honestly did not know how I was going to do it. And and I don't think people realized how bad it was or how bad it can be for people that are going through that. But back to your question, I didn't have to talk about it much because I wasn't on the leaderboard very much. Then all of a sudden, play good for that stretch and start making putts. And now the elephant in the room is now available to talk about. And that's probably why it came out as much as it did, is just from that stretch of golf we've been talking about, and being on the leaderboard a bunch and being asked a bunch of questions. And then all of a sudden, hey, why are you playing so good? Oh, I'm making putts and I'm not afraid to tap the ball in anymore.
And it was all 3 short putts, 3 feet and in, 3 to 5 feet and in?
Yeah. So in 2019, I putted everything from inside 6 feet with my eyes closed, which is a Band-Aid for people with the yips. If you're not looking at the ball, your body and your hands and your brain doesn't know where impact is, so you don't flinch at it. Well, eventually I kind of outran that too, and it didn't work anymore. And then so I went to a type of putter called the arm lock, and if you watch like what Matt Kuchar did for years, where the putter's a little bit longer and it rests on your left arm, he does it on his right arm now, believe it or not, which is amazing that he putts the way he does, having gone from one arm to the other. But so I did that for a while and had a pretty good run with that. I won the John Deere in 21 doing that. But again, it was mainly because of my ball striking. I hit it so close, I didn't have a choice but to make some. But yeah, it was mostly short putts or only short putts. But the toll it took on my entire game, if I had a 20-footer, I wouldn't be as aggressive as say a player not fighting the yips, because I was scared to roll it a foot by or 2 feet by and miss the next one. So all of a sudden I'm not aggressive, and I'm just kind of easing it up to the hole and not even trying to make them really. I'm just trying not to 3-putt from 20 feet. And that's no way to be as a tour player. And as we've seen over the last few months, my putting stats have increased because now I'm not as freaked out about rolling it by 2 or 3 feet and missing it coming back. And that's when all of a sudden the rest of your game gets easier. Now you're not worried about hitting it perfect every time, or worried about, trying to chip in instead of chipping it to 2 feet and worried about missing them. So just the mental ease that it gave me and has given me has eased things up for my whole game, all the way back to the tee box.
This lasted 9 or 10 years, you said?
Yeah. It was 2012 at Colonial in Fort Worth. I 4-putted the 5th green, and had never had these issues like this before. Had I missed short putts? Sure, who hadn't? But I 4-putted the 5th green there at Colonial, and at that point I started thinking, I said, that I've never had that feeling before. And I've been fought it ever since. And like I said, it would go at the beginning, it would go in spurts. When it mattered, I would really kind of freak out, or my body would freak out. And then as time went on, and as that got worse and worse, it became a daily thing. Like where walking up on a green, I would be terrified of, is it going to happen, or am I going to have one of those episodes? Or I fought it 9-10 years, and like I said, it's still there. I just have ways and tools, as Jason Kuhn would say. I got tools in my toolbox to attack it and not let it affect me.
So the 4-putt at the Colonial, that was the first time you actually felt the lack of feeling in your hands that time.
Yeah. It was like, well, I remember walking off that green going, that it was almost like it wasn't me. I was like, that did not feel like the same person that putted on the fourth green 25 minutes ago. And then it was gone. But, that night in the hotel room and the next day, I'm thinking, why did that happen? And then, of course, you start, freaking out, going, all right, how do I make sure that doesn't happen again? And do I need to change this? Do I need a new putter? Do I need to change my grip? Do I need to, and all of those things now looking back on it was the absolute worst thing you can do. Cause then you're trying to teach yourself something new that probably doesn't need to be fixed. It's more of, and again, I didn't know this then. It didn't matter what putter, it didn't matter what grip, it didn't matter any of that. All that mattered was that I was scared for whatever reason. And then, but try to change, try to practice, and all of those things made it worse, because then you're introducing new stuff that you've never done or never tried or never put in competition. And that just multiplies and makes it worse and worse and worse.
This has to be so much more prevalent and widespread than people maybe think. And I think that's what you were getting at earlier. And it's not necessarily just in golf, but whether somebody's going to stand up and speak to a big group, or like a musician who's playing in front of a larger crowd than he or she is used to, or whatever, the physiological effects of that sort of panic has to be experienced by a ton of people out there. 100%. There's no question. And, I'm huge sports fan, obviously. And I can see it now with certain people, whether it be golfers or a guy shooting a free throw or a field goal kicker same thing in business, public speaking or addressing your team in a boardroom or any of those things. It is very prevalent, and I don't think I've verbalized it very well earlier, but if people in any walk of life can see that it is beatable, can see that there is a way to attack it and to get over it, that you don't have to go through life like that, then, if there's one junior golfer that my story helps, then I'm happy. And because it is beatable, it is able to be pushed down and beaten. But I've had, I can't tell you how many people have called asking for Jason's phone number and asking these questions. I mean, my peers and some top 100 players in the world rankings of golf just fighting something similar or a certain part of their game. And I know Jason, he's drinking from a fire hose right now because his story's out there now, and how he went about it and how he's helped people. And I think he's probably as busy as anybody on the planet at the moment, in a good way. Upstate foodies, want to take a moment to talk to you about our favorite taco spot, Willie Taco. 5 locations across the upstate. This award-winning team has been serving up fresh taco fusion for a solid decade now. The chefs at Willie Taco utilize the freshest, most creative, and sometimes unexpected ingredients in their kitchens. Come see why Southern Living, Garden and Gun, and Food and Wine Magazine are raving about Willie Taco and their signature offerings, such as their Southern Tide, crispy avocado, Nashville hot chicken tacos, literally flavors you will not find anywhere else, folks. And don't forget about the cocktails. Super fresh margaritas, ice cold cerveza, and over 80 tequilas served up daily from behind the bar. So don't wait, folks. Your Willie Taco Familia is ready to serve you up their twist on funky, fresh fusion. It's the Willie way. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith and Archambault. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate, estate law, Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. When you're ready for a complete renovation in your home or business, open the door to more with Harris Home and Harris Commercial. Their local experienced team will totally transform any room space, from beautiful floor coverings to construction to finished details. Harris handles every step of your renovation process, whether it's a kitchen or living room or an industrial or educational setting, like some of the positively stunning work they've done at Clemson University. Go to discoverharris.com and experience a total renovation transformation from Harris Home and Harris Commercial. The live thing is so freaking complicated. I don't know if you have commented on. I haven't researched that. I'm just curious to get your general take on where things stand now. After we've gone from the PGA sort of considering them a enemy to the world to then linking up with them. I don't know if anyway, I'm just curious.
It was kind of the us against them there for a long time. And then this new proposal came about, I think, 1st of July. I think we were in Canada for the Canadian Open. And so I think that was June or July. I don't remember. But, the original proposal sounded crazy. And now I think some of that's been reeled back in. And I'll tell you exactly what I know. Nothing. And I don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody has any answers right now what 2024 is going to look like in the landscape of golf. I don't know. We've been told what the latest is, and it's nothing. And that's being completely honest. I mean, the tour brass was out a lot the last couple of months, and they're getting bombarded with questions, and they don't have any answers yet either. So I think they're trying to hash all that out and figure out what's what and who's who and who's going to be where. And it's unfortunate that we're in this position. I think some of it could have been avoided with just being more open-minded a couple years ago. But now I think we're in a spot where everybody's going to have to make some concessions they don't want to make. But at the end of the day, the tour couldn't sustain the business model that they had put in place with these elevated signature events, whatever they want to call them. You can't go to sponsors and asking them for a $12 to $13 million increase when they're not seeing that much of a return. It doesn't make much sense. So, and then on top of that, the court costs and litigation and things of that nature, it just wasn't feasible monetarily for the tour to keep going down that road. So it was either going to be some sort of private equity money or what came out to be this Saudi money. So I just, it's unfortunate we're in this spot. It's unfortunate that so many people and players have been banned or suspended. And it's just a lot of people got a bad taste in their mouth about the way things were handled and are being handled. And I'm in that camp. I think a lot of this could have been avoided with a little more open-minded and a little better leadership originally. But, we're here. So I just, I don't know what it's going to look like. And I don't know that anybody can say any different right now today on, the 1st of September here. I don't think anybody knows anything.
What would that open-mindedness a couple of years ago look like to you? Just have a conversation. Just the tour could have had a conversation with Liv or with their money backers or whoever, that wanted to talk and try to make this an alliance instead of a competition. And even if it wasn't possible, at least there would have been some understanding of, we're going to do this, and if players leave, we're going to ban them, or, all right, let's try not to have that. I don't know. I mean, I just think conversations could have been had, and I have it on pretty good authority that they tried. And I don't see how
almost 2 years later, it just seems like those fences are going to be hard to mend without a lot of give from both parties.
Did you say that last week you used the Ben Franklin quote that you saw in Tiger Illustrated during your press conference?
Yeah, on the season forecast there. Well done is better than well said. And I knew I was going to get some Ryder Cup questions after I played there in Atlanta, so I stole. I'd read that morning, and I said, you know what, I like that. That's kind of applicable right now. So I used it with Rex Hoggard from Golf Channel, and he of course laughed and he said, I wouldn't expect anything less from you. I did cite Tiger Illustrated, but he'd already turned off the recorder.
Sure you did. So, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So it didn't make it in I don't think it made it in the article, but I don't think they were looking to promote any other websites. So
I was talking with Mark Schlabach of ESPN, a good friend of mine, who he said he's you and he have spoken before, and I was telling him about your presence and longtime subscriber to Tiger Illustrated, and he was saying that he knows some other golfers, I think mainly UGA guys, who are all over their websites over there and who just can't get enough. It is a fascinating topic, I guess, broadly, but here, sort of specific to our situation, I'm just like continually flattered and humbled and just kind of amazed that you're just hanging out, reading what we have to write and popping in on the board from time to time.
Yeah, I like I said a minute ago, I'm probably a little bit too invested in my alma mater sports, but I love it, and I can't get enough. I like following it. I like keeping up with it. I like the different perspectives and the information, and information. We didn't have access to it growing up like we do now because of the internet and sites like y'all's. And I'm probably on there a little too much, but it's fun and I like keeping up.
When did you start subscribing to the website?
I believe it was right after I graduated, so probably 02, 03, something like that. So I think I'm 20 years in. Or so.
You predate me by 5 years, man.
I know. I think I got Paul by a few years too.
Sometimes I write some things that, might not go over well. Sometimes I'll pick against Clemson every now and then. Has there ever been a time where you're like, God, that Larry, that freaking idiot?
No. I'm old enough to understand people have opinions and perspectives, and that's you don't always have to agree, but you have to respect other people's opinions and line of thinking. And I feel like if more people did that, we wouldn't be so mad at everybody else like we are as a society. But that's where we are.
That's a great point. How often would you say a day do you frequent the website and message board?
I check it every morning. I'm usually up before the 7:10 to 7:15 drop. So, but I'm on there. I'm on there a good bit. I keep up, especially. I don't read a lot. I don't read a lot of the board during the season just because it can get so volatile. But I'm on there. I'd say an average hour and a half a day, probably total.
And what is it like during a game for you?
Oh, I'm a wreck. A complete wreck. Like, I'm better than I used to be. I threw a remote through a TV one time around, it had to be 07 or 08. We had a phantom holding call in Atlanta.
Oh, boy. Thomas Austin.
That's it. Thomas Austin cost us the game, and I'd just redone a TV room and had back when flat screens had just come out and those remotes that looked like you could launch the space shuttle from, and I threw it right through the middle of the TV when they showed the replay, and he was literally holding air. So, but now I kind of put all remotes aside and a little bit calmer. But no, I get into it. I'm nervous and tense, and I love it. But I'll be a wreck starting about 6:30 Monday evening.
I was going to ask you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm a nervous eater too. So most people lose weight in the off season. I seem to gain it because of all the football I watch. But no, it's fun. I love it. And I love my team. I love my school, and any sport I'll watch Clemson play anything. And but football's king, and my wife's a huge NFL fan growing up in New England. So the house rule is I get Saturday and she gets Sunday. So I've watched a lot of Patriots games over the 12 years we've been together, and she's watched a lot of Clemson games.
What I love about watching a game, especially in person, is I come at it from a more clinical perspective just because of my job. As we're talking about performing and having the weight of the world on your shoulders, all this pressure, I love trying to watch Dabo during crucial moments and how he's managing a situation. And, I mean, there have been so many, of course, over the years during his brilliant run, but the one that stands out to me most recently is the Syracuse game last year, when he made the decision to pull DJ, obviously the right call because DJ was struggling. But it's so much more than that when you're the head coach. You have to say the right thing to DJ to keep him, to keep his head in it. You have to say the right thing to Cade. You're managing personalities. Then you're having to manage your own decisions on, do we just turn Cade loose here as we're trying to come back from 14 points down, or do I rely on the running game so I can settle him down and maybe we can get some stops? I just came away from that game going, man, this is a big part of why these guys are so elite and get paid the big bucks is how they manage a game. But I'm guessing from your perspective, you're so much of a wreck during, while following your alma mater that you're less less clinical and less trying to dissect those parts of the game and just more just following the ebbs and flows of the game.
Yeah, for sure. I have, tremendous amount of respect for Dabo and have gotten to know him a little bit over the years. But what's so refreshing to me about him is how accountable he is of himself. And if he makes the wrong decision, he owns it. And if he makes the right one, he gives praise to everyone else. And I think his coaching style and the way he goes about his business daily it's just so filled with passion, and I'm just so impressed with how real of a person and coach he is. People ask me all the time if I know him. I say, yeah, I know him a little bit. They say, well, how is he off the field? I go, exactly the same as he is on the field. They go, what do you mean? I said, well, he talks to me about my golf like he talks to reporters about his football team. He's full of excitement. He's invested, and he's just so upbeat, positive, passionate. And it's just so refreshing that the same person you see on TV, he's like that on the phone or in a golf cart or wherever he is. But what he's built at Clemson and what he's built for us, the fans, is something that we can all be very, very proud of, because he has done it his way and by all accounts the right way. And you see these kids, he turns out, that don't make it in the pros, and they seem to be, for the most part, well on their way to being men. And I think that is his ultimate vision as a coach, as a leader, as a father figure in some cases. But the way he handles those situations you alluded to, it's always interesting. Like if there's a big kick coming up and the other coach calls a timeout, well, Dabo's smiling and slapping BT on the helmet and trying to get him to laugh and loosen him up. Whereas if it's not a big moment and it's a teachable moment, he's full of fire. And the way he manages situations, to your point, is masterful. But if he picks wrong or chooses wrong, or makes the wrong decision, I think it's just so refreshing the way he'll own it. And if it turns out to be the best thing, well, he's given the player the credit or given the coordinator the credit. And I think that's just so cool and a pretty awesome sign of a leader that he wants to have his arms around his people and wants them to reap the benefits of things he's built. And if not, he's going to take it and let them beat on him for it instead of those players or those people.
You won the U.S. Open in 2009, and then you were at the top of the hill with Dabo for a game that fall, right? Was it the Florida State game?
It was. I got to do I had said in an interview at some point that what was my biggest dream in sports, and I said, well, it doesn't have to do with golf. And so they said, well, what is it? And I said, well, I grew up a Clemson fan, and my grandfather ran down the hill, not when it was the hill, but when they had to come down from Fike Fieldhouse where they got dressed, and they just kind of walked down the hill because that was the only way to get to the stadium in 1948. And then I had an uncle there for the national championship team in 81. And I think I went to every home game till I was about 16 or 17. And then golf started getting in the way. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, and I'd love to do it. And I don't know if Dabo read it or word got to him or whatever, but he gave me a ring and said, I'd like for you to lead the team onto the field, Florida State. And I almost fell over. I was just so I was so impressed, number one, that he invited me, and number two, that I was going to get to fulfill a dream, because I wasn't a football player and never even thought I'd be able to do that. But and we that was a pretty awesome moment, riding that bus around and getting out with him. And I told him at the top of the hill, and he probably couldn't hear me because of the crowd, but I thought I'd really, pumped him up. I said, that Bobby Bowden over there, he puts his britches on just like you, one leg at a time. And, he probably didn't hear me, but I said it anyway. That was my motivational speech to Dabo at the top of the hill.
The interesting thing, thinking back to that snapshot, is at that time, there weren't a whole lot of people who believed really in Dabo Swinney in terms of, okay, this is the guy who's going to get Clemson back to national prominence. But the thing, I think the most legitimate, the biggest reason for belief at that point was the connection that he made with the bridges he rebuilt, the connections he was making with people like you, things he was doing. And I'm not just disparaging Tommy Bowden here. Different people, different modes of operation. But you think back to Dabo, the first game, Georgia Tech, as he relates it to this day, as an assistant for years, he was on the buses coming from Anderson, and they would take this roundabout detour through the country, and they would never go through the heart of tailgates and experience what it's like. And as he shares, he went up to Terry Don and said, we got to go right to it and walk through the middle of it, because the players need to see what this is like. Inviting the students to practice like the first few weeks he was on the job in 2008, and then reaching out, feeling like, hey, man, Lucas wants to do this. I'm gonna call him myself and say, hey, come join me. At that moment, as you sort of tried to figure out, okay, is this the guy? Is this the one who's going to take us to the level we've been trying to reach for 2 decades? What was your feel for him at the time, just in terms of being a fan?
Yeah, I think exactly what you just said and alluded to perfectly is he went at it, number one, by his vision and all of the coaching he'd done and all of the positives he'd seen at Alabama or at Clemson, all the negatives he had seen coaching and all of those things. And I mean, his notebooks are legendary, the notes he takes and the things he has and the things he has to roll back on and look at and read and remember. And I mean, he had this plan of how I want this to be. And if I'm not going to do it any different way to keep my job, I'm going to do it this way because this is my vision and this is what I want and this is what my players deserve. And to bring them right through what is now, turned into Tiger Walk and just see how passionate the fans are and the people are for them, the kids, the players, was a stroke of genius. Just because all of a sudden now the players are people. They're not just, and the fans are people. They're not just there on Saturdays. They're there all the time. And just to show the passion and to show how much it means to people. But at the same time, balance that with, all right, we got to be students. We got to have fun. We got to be men. We got to do all these things that embody being a Clemson football player. And he's done that and masterfully. And it's so nice and so fun to pull so hard for a guy that you have so much respect for and admiration for, just the way he leaned into the position and the way he embraced Clemson. It's refreshing because there's so much fake in sports and there's so much PC in sports and there's so much BS, to be honest with you, in sports. And he's pretty darn transparent and it's pretty impressive the way he handles his program.
So circa 2009, as tour friends of yours are like, what's this guy all about? Are you saying this is the dude who's going to take us back, or are you saying, man, I really like this guy. He's just a really good person, and he speaks the Clemson language, but I'm not really sure what's going to happen. Like, what's your position at the time or feeling?
Kind of like what he said after Charlotte when we South USF got us. He said, "Help's on the way," and you could see. And again, just because of my infatuation with recruiting, you could see the roster starting to get pretty good. And that, because of my following recruiting and this and that on Tiger Illustrated, you could see that the roster's getting better, getting some skill position, and now we got to get the lines and all that stuff. But it's hard to say because you never know as 17, 18, 19-year-old kids if they're going to turn out. But I mean, we were, three cycles in a row with generational quarterback talent. We didn't know that at the time, but they all hit. But you could see the team, the players, the coaches were all reinvigorated because of him. There was some electricity around the program. The facilities were finally getting done, which, Tommy got the short end of the stick with that. But, and you could start to see the culture was turning over. We started winning those close games that we weren't winning before. And we didn't take anybody lightly anymore. Everybody was equal as an opponent. And yeah, it was kind of I was outwardly in support. I said, we got our guy, and you can see it starting to turn over, and you could just see the culture shift.
Were you in Tampa on January 9th, 2017?
I was not. I had two small ones at the time, and I was watching on TV, and they were all abruptly woken up when Hunter caught that pass. So,
what's that like? What was that like?
It was surreal. They'd been banging on the door for a couple years, and to just finally break through, and I can't imagine what. Well, actually, I can, because you saw it with Dabo and Jeff on the sidelines. I mean, that was two dads and two coaches and two grown men that were out there jumping around like boys, and like 15-year-old Little League baseball or Pee Wee football players that just won the game, and it was just elation, and you could just see how happy and proud and all of that. And those were my emotions. I was happy and proud and just so pleased with that. That's my team, that's my school, and they just slayed the beast.
You, we were texting the other night, preparing for this, and you said, "Hey man, what's going on with realignment?" Here we are, with the news fresh of the ACC adding Stanford, Cal, and SMU. What is your take on that, and what is your overall feeling on where, like, Clemson's stature moving forward, whether it's remaining inside the ACC or somewhere else?
I have to think that adding these three today is a protective measure for TV, because it's my understanding if you drop below a certain number, TV can drop the bottom line if people leave. So I think everything now going forward is completely bottom line oriented and money driven to protect some downside. I think it's time for the football schools and the football teams to be with others. And I think that's kind of where it's heading, or so it appears. I don't think we're that far away from having 60 to 65 football schools, if you will. I don't know how you even draw those parameters for that, and then they'll be their own entity, governed themselves. I think that's where it's headed eventually. I don't know how far down the line that'll be, but that's what it looks like, and that's what it looks like they're heading towards. I just don't see how universities can sustain Clemson softball flying to San Francisco to play Cal a couple times a year. I don't see how that's sustainable in the long term, but I don't know anything either. But about that stuff, it just doesn't seem like the right thing on paper. But as we all know, football drives the boat and pays for everything else. But to be able to maintain what's going on now, something's going to have to shift pretty hard. And I think it'll eventually be a 60, 65, 70 team, 4 or 5 leagues, conferences, divisions, whatever we want to call it. And we're already there with the playoff expansion. So I don't know what that holds for Clemson. I don't know. I'm not in those boardrooms, but I don't think the dots are that difficult to connect at this point.
I've written a lot about the importance of alignment, administrative alignment over the years, but particularly over the last month or so. I think Jim Clements, Graham Neff. How confident are you that Clemson has the right alignment, has the right people in place, in power, to assure that Clemson is going to be in good shape moving forward regardless?
Yeah, very. I know President Clemens a little bit. I've texted some with Graham. It was very surface with Graham. I don't know him. I plan to introduce myself as soon as I can get to a game this fall, but just with where we were, where we are, and I know President Clements he's pretty cutting edge, and he's on top of things, and I feel very confident that they are all on the same page, and I think our future is in very good hands with them, and I think they've positioned us in a very positive place, no matter where we end up as far as this realignment goes.
I can't tell you how many times I hear from folks, "Hey man, I'm a longtime subscriber, but I just lurk."
Mm-hmm.
What compels you to? I mean, you're not a frequent poster, but you could easily. I mean, especially with the profile you have, you could easily just lurk and never post. What compels you to jump into that circus on the West End Zone message board from time to time?
Different things. I think recently, and this will be a verbal thank you instead of a typed out one, but I get a lot of support on there, and a lot of support from the Clemson people, and that's just a way for me to say my thank you en masse, instead of trying to do it on social media or something like that, because those, I know a lot of people on there. I just don't know who they are, which is fine, and that's the way it should be. But I've just said my thank yous the last few months for all the support, and I appreciate it. But I think a lot of speculation and a lot of things get tossed around on there, and sometimes if I know something and can veil it with confidence, I'll say, let's back up here a little bit, or I don't know. I just try to post on there every now and again, and but especially to say thank you to all the support.
Lucas, I could sit here for 3 more hours, but I'm sure you have better things to do. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about? I know that Coach Penley is going to be inducted to the Hall of Fame FSU weekend.
Yep.
Wanted to definitely touch on that. Are you going to be here for that?
Yep, I am. I'm going to be there for that. Heidi Penley invited me. Coach didn't, but we'll let that slide. I'll plan to be there for Larry. He obviously was my coach, and he's a good man and a good friend, and always had my back, and I'll always have his. But I think that'll be an awesome weekend for him, and well deserved. And I think that'll be my first home game of the season, and then I only live about an hour from Hard Rock, so I'll be there for the Miami game when we come down here, and I get a lot of Clemson sports this fall. I'm pretty excited about it, but definitely excited for Coach Penley's weekend there in a couple weeks.
Haven't even asked if everything's okay down there with the hurricane and all the remnants of that.
Yeah, we're on the East Coast, so we got some of the outer bands the last 36 hours or so, but they got hit pretty hard over on the West Coast. I got some friends over there. They hunkered down and they're okay, but faults with that coast, and I'm sure we'll get ours some other time this fall, and the roles will be reversed. But all good here so far.
Anything else you want to get off your chest?
Larry, I think we covered it. That was awesome, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Man, I really admire high-profile people who are humble and not too impressed with themselves, and you are firmly in that category. And I just appreciate that, and appreciate your loyalty to the website and participation on the board, and of course your willingness to come on here, man, and talk to a buffoon like me. So really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You got it, Larry. Thank you so much.
That was great. Really, really, really enjoyed it, and appreciate Lucas giving us so much of his time. Also, thanks to the support of our sponsors for helping make this happen. And, of course, thanks to every single one of you for hitting that play button. Really appreciate it.